Hi, and welcome back to Share Your Grinn. Today we are going to be doing something that I've been holding off for doing for a very long time, but we're going to be doing a top 10 of my favorite or just worth watching anime. Some of you guys on stream were asking me, because I'm constantly talking about the shows I'm watching, how I'm enjoying them, the problems I think that may exist within some of them, and I'm going to be telling you guys my top 3 favorites, and then, of course, just ones that I think are really, really good. In no particular order, and as far as the top 3 go, there is an order to it in terms of my absolute favorite in all of these things, but all of these shows I think are worth watching if, and this is a gigantic if, you like the same things I like. So what do I like? I very much enjoy 0 to 100 shows, so a character that starts off as a guppy and becomes the kingpin. Very, very strong. I love those. Shonen, again, is what they tend to be categorized as. I also enjoy, and this is a personal thing within me, I love cool ideas. I kind of have like a writer's mind to some extent and a crazy imagination, so I look for anything that introduces cool ideas. It doesn't necessarily have to kill those ideas and like knock them out of the park in order for me to find enjoyment and fulfillment and interest in said show, okay? So yeah, unique ideas, interesting premises is where I'm at. I don't really care about execution too much, although I do like it, of course, and that's kind of what determines to be like a really good show that I would recommend to just a show that I personally enjoy. Also, I got into anime when I was a little bit younger, with a show called Vampire plus Rosary, which had a lot of fan service, so don't blame me. There's a little bit of something in there when my brain was just like, nice, but that's as far as it ever goes. And also, I do think there's a line to how far that nice can go in terms of just being like, what are we watching here, fam? You know. But anyways, that's what I enjoy. So interesting concepts and ideas, and ultimately a power, a 0 to 100 kind of show, aka a shonen. And also, I like the whole isekai genre quite a lot because it kind of facilitates both of those ideas. If that makes sense. But if you like those kind of things, then you probably will like a lot of the shows that I'm going to suggest. So without further ado, let's start with my top 3, my favorite shows of all time. You may not find them to be perfect or lovely, but these top 3 are my favorite shows because of what I specifically find brilliant, wonderful, interesting, creative, etc., which could be different from you, But the other shows after these 3 are just kind of like good tentpole shows that I think it's worth watching. So forgive me if a lot of these also are just like commonality. I throw a couple in there, curveballs to where maybe you haven't seen them that they're worth a watch. Anyways, let's get into it. I have a hair in my mouth. It's so fucking gross. I don't know where it came from either. The beard? No. My beard hair is like thorns. I'd be able to feel it. So we're going from my least favorite of the top 3 of my most favorite of all time up to my absolute, like, the god of shows for me. So my third favorite anime, one that I think you guys should absolutely watch, which kind of does break the mold in some ways what we just described, is Assassination Classroom. This show there is a barrier of entry because the main character kind of looks odd, and there's like this weird oddity to it where like his voice is like very squeaky, a little bit of feminine, but he plays a dude, so there's a little bit like misdirection with that. Also, it's like it just throws you off. It's kind of like an off-putting thing. So if you're into like the 0 to 100 archetype, it'll constantly make you like be like, what? A little bit thrown off, right? But if you have had any school-like experience and it was not ideal, if you had any sort of like parental figure or maybe like lessons that you never got to learn because of a circumstance, because of whatever it could have been, this show is for you. At least for me. It's very much for me. It talks about like life lessons in a beautiful way. If you've had, like, for me personally, I don't really like school that much. I think it's an old archetypal shitty thing, but I love teachers. I think that's the difference. I think most people can agree that even people who don't like school can find at least one teacher that had their back and that was fantastic, was amazing. And this show encapsulates that feeling in a very interesting way that's also beautiful and interesting and wonderful, and also has one of the most unique and powerful endings that I've experienced, and I hate despair. I'll just let you know that ahead of time. Anyways, but I think it does a lot really well. Anyways, what is Assassination Classroom, first of all? Just a quick synopsis because we got a lot of shows to get through. Essentially, the idea is that there's this creepy, weird, tentacle yellow monster that is the world's greatest assassin. And he's like now, somehow, some way, this ultimate death weapon that has the power to obliterate the world. And he showcases that power by popping a hole straight through the moon so it is permanently a crescent. He like goes to the world leaders of the whole planet and says, this class, this random class in the middle of nowhere from this weird school that has to do with ranking, I want this bottom tier, F tier class. I want to teach them to kill me. I want to show them and train them how they can somehow destroy me. So that's the premise. This class that is the F tier class in this school becomes the chosen people that from this weird malevolent assassin god to kill him. And that's the premise. And if they don't kill him at the end of their term, the whole world gets killed, blown up. And it's a weird premise, but it's super crazy. So that's something that gets you in the door. But this show, man, I cannot describe how wholesome it is, how many like beautiful and like super real life lessons there are in there that are super relevant to everybody, executed in a very interesting way because these kids are trying to take down this like yellow god squid monster Cthulhu thing. But what do you call it? The teacher is like the most wholesome, the most supportive person ever. And the one thing that I remember from this show, and this is why I loved it so much, is so many shows introduce characters and you kind of completely tell that they're just like a filler character that you'll never know more about. This show, by the end of your journey, by the end of the 2 seasons, which have a good bit of episodes, by the end of the 2 seasons, you will intimately know just about every single one of these characters. Their positives, their negatives, the way the teacher trains and facilitates and encourages their positives and fixes their negatives or helps them solve their problems, etc. It is such a beautiful show, especially if you watch the whole thing, because at some point you might be like, okay, here's another student, here's another lesson for them. It could get a little bit played out, but it's the way everything comes together at the end of your journey that you're able to truly say, oh my god, I love these characters, I understand them, I understand their pain, I understand their power, I understand their everything. It's one of the best written shows for characters specifically. And also I loved it because, and the reason why I think it's one of my top 3s of all time, of all the thousands of shows that I've watched, out of all the movies and media, these top 3 are not just TV, not just anime, this is every movie, every TV show, this is everything. The reason why that matters so much to me is because of my unfortunate circumstance with school, of having like a learning disability and being super behind while everyone else exceeded, and just having really shitty teachers that didn't give a shit, and then having like 2 that pulled me from the fucking dirt and taught me how to learn and taught me how to excel. And how much I'll always be indebted to those people, and how much I regret not telling them how much they did for me and how much it meant that they did those things for me. Love the show. It is totally worth a watch. Just know that if once you're 5 episodes in, you're probably stuck. You're probably in. But those 5 episodes can be a little bit like, this is kind of too much, but also just hold true. I promise it gets to the point where eventually you'll be like, I wish someone taught me this way, even this crazy assassin world, you know? Anyways, we're talking too long about these shows. My second most beloved show of all time, that was my third. My second one is Welcome to Demon School Irmika. I love this show. And again, one thing that like you can kind of pick up is the Assassination Classroom is kind of an interesting idea, an interesting premise, but it's the wholesomeness that got me, and it's the character development that got me. Welcome to Demon School Irmika is very, very interesting. It is a show that is filled with really, really cool ideas, really weird shit. If you grew up watching Soul Eater or Vampire plus Rosary, it has that aesthetic and that insanity times 10. It is incredibly wholesome, incredibly happy and lovely. The only thing that I think is a little bit of a weird thing is that Irmika's design is a little weird. He looks a little in the middle. Like, yeah, you want him to look like a badass main protagonist, and then he kind of just looks like a cute, like hangout kind of guy, you know, which is cool too. I don't mind it, but I know that can be off-putting for some people who are going to like the other shows I suggest. But anyways, the reason why Welcome to Demon School Irmika is so good is because it hinges on the one thing that I love the most within shows, and this show is really close near my favorite. It kind of goes back and forth a little bit. But right now we're putting it at my second. But anyways, this show is so creative with the ideas it produces. The premise of the show is this. There is a guy named Irmika, a boy. He's 14 years old. And this boy is like a huge people pleaser. He has been always, since the minute he was a child to where he is now, he's always been like incredibly kind, incredibly helpful, and etc. And it's kind of a thing that he can't say no to things. He always wants to help. Unfortunately, he was dealt a really bad set of cards because his parents are manipulative, cruel, and shitty people. Now, this is not a dark show, but his parents essentially get him to clean the house, and then it ramps up to basically them like not working ever and just having him work and him having to like live in a forest. It's like comical anime stuff, but just awful parents. So, one day, whilst on a job, he gets sucked to a demon realm by the god, or the demon god kind of Sullivan. So he gets pulled into this realm, and there's this creepy-ass, bald, tall as hell, gangly-looking old man, who tells him that their parents, Irmika's parents, sold his soul to them. So now for wealth, I think it is. So now he is the property of Sullivan in a way, or at least he has his soul. But it come to find out that this demon lord, this big, tall, gangly, slender man looking ass man, just so happens to be the sweetest old man ever who just really wanted a grandson. And he was tired of so many people like gushing about their grandsons with his old friends. And he's like, no, I want to raise a kid and like be there for him and all this stuff. So then that's the premise of like this god tier powerful demon lord taking this human this very unique, weird, interesting character human into his family, and like giving him and just spoiling him, and like because it's a character Irma has had such a bad life, but he's so kind that like he's now getting spoiled. It's really cute to watch all this stuff happen. But anyways, so then Irma goes to this school named Babylos, which is very much like Vampire plus Rosary. It's this school filled with monsters, demons, and everything in the between. So what do you call it? Irmika is now, and it's funny because there's this underlying tone to the whole show, which is it intros it like this. So that's already a crazy premise. But the second part of the premise, the Demon King will rise again. So in this underworld, where that Sullivan took Irmika to, there is this prophecy that the next demon lord will come and will heal all demon kind and shape demon kin into a beautiful new direction, etc. And from the cuff, the show hints that's Irmika. So the show is, the overarching story is how a human became the god of the underworld, the Demon King, and how Sullivan, in a way, seems like he's placing things in front of Irma so that this prophecy can come true. And so that's already a really cool concept of like the classic age-old demon, Demon King thing. Except the Demon King is a super kind, immensely optimistic kid, and he's going through encounters and situations that constantly improve him and make him better, and only he could have kind of weathered the storm to some extent. And it's just such a cool inverse of ideas and constant weirdness that I love it to bits. Like very rare, they're like so many few shows come close to this level of interesting ideas and just constant happenings. And it's also very weird, which I like a lot. Makes it stand out, makes it feel fresh. But anyways, in the first episode, you'll know. Like the first episode, this is not one of those shows where like in 5 episodes you'll finally get it. You'll finally see like Deku fucking punch that giant thing, and then you'll be like, okay, this is kind of sick. No, this is the show where the first episode you probably get hooked because it's so much madness. Basically, think of the same kind of like goes to a monster high school and has like very cool characters everywhere, and is constantly moving towards this grander goal of Irma becoming this Demon King. Love it to bits. Super worth it. It is the peak of like cool ideas executed. And I know we're gonna talk about some other shows that I love to bits and I would suggest to you. But this show just has a special place in my heart. Maybe it's because I was a big fan of the previous Vampire plus Rosary and also Soul Eater. Anyways, talking a little bit fast, let's reel it back. My favorite show of all time, it's been like this way for like probably 10 years or something. It's called, and this is very much me, like my love for these kinds of shows. But this show is called Bloodblock Battlefront. I love this show so much. The premise is absolute insanity. This is number one for me, and it's been number one for a long time, and I've seen a lot of good stuff. Specifically, Welcome to Demon School, Irmika. If it keeps getting more seasons, it's probably going to take away this throne, but maybe not, because of what I love so much about this show. Let me tell you the premise. Essentially, on New York, there is this giant dimensional shift, essentially, that happened. Think of like if New York City got combined with like the underworld, like demon, all this stuff. So it just basically mishmashed New York and this demon realm together. So now New York City is covered with this fog, and it's filled with like weird races and cool different like kinds of people, except unlike Irmika, like weird demon school nonsense, which is like super positive and happy, it's a little bit more like grounded, gritty, and like grubby. Like New York City kind of has that like roughness to it. It keeps that, and everything kind of adapts in that weird way. And yeah, essentially that's the premise, that there's this New York City got shifted, this dimensional shift happened where it combined two types of realms together. So now there's a bunch of different weird bad guys. There's demons walking around, there's vampires walking around. There's these weird humans that are like exorcists that can command blood to fight back against these kind of otherworldly creatures. But the baseline is that human beings find a way to harmonize. Like they found a way to kind of equal out with their weird environment. So humans and monsters are kind of coexisting together, and then there's just kind of shittier versions or bad variants of monsters kind of just shitting on everybody on occasion. But Hell Salem Lot is the place, and it's just insanity. Like everyone kind of just adapts, which is really a cool thing. But the thing that makes this show even better is that's already a cool premise to me. I love 0 to 100 shows. This is kind of in some ways not that, and I think that's why I love it so much, because I love those shows so much and I've seen them to death. This character is weak and kind of stays weak, and honestly, it's comical because the only thing that makes him kind of have a place in this world is his eyes, and the way he can kind of find things, see things, and in a way, he is the lens in which we can see the world, and the lens in which we can see the greatness of those around him. And oh my god, is there a lot of greatness. So this tiny, like, 13-year-old boy, whatever, is in New York City trying to make money and figure out how to basically fix this bad thing that happened to him in his past. He ends up happening upon this like secret organization. Think of like Illuminati, but like super good people, have like incredible like powers and etc. Very much think of the atmosphere of Hellboy. That's like the show's pretext feeling. It's like very Hellboy-ish. This boy goes to this like special organization, and he shows them that he has these all-seeing eyes. And essentially, he's just like a measly human with the ability to like find and see things, so he's valuable, but he's not able to really fight back. I know you might be like, oh, but that's gonna be shitty, because then it's just gonna be one of these characters where they're weak all the time. It's annoying. Well, no, because the people around him are unique, awesome characters. This is also a show that feels so real. Like the characters feel like they talk the way normal people would talk, that they would fuck with people, that the way that they would like act and react, and like friendship and like actual friendship, not stupid anime nonsense friendship. And it's just beautiful, and the characters are super unique. Klaus is a fucking bad bitch. What do you call it? His friend, the white-haired friend with the katana style, he's a goofball, and it's so funny and charming, but they're also like flawed. Like none of them are like perfect, kind, benevolent people. They're kind of like good, like very good, but still kind of like have their own kind of brashness to the world and like defeated nature to like, fuck these people kind of thing, you know? But anyways, it's the art style, it's the way the characters exist, and honestly, just to kind of like spoil some things a little bit, the reason why Bloodblock means like so much to me is because it goes so much against the idea of like 0 to hero, which I talked about how much I love, and we'll talk about shows that I think if you like those, I got you. But the thing that makes that show so special to me is that the main character is painfully weak, but regardless of that, still charges forward and also still constantly communicates how he is like weak, but not like in Deku's way of like being like, oh no, I need to get stronger here, I'm gonna pop off. But instead, like, I have to charge forward, because if I don't, then like, what else can I do? Like I need to do this. I need to keep moving forward. And it's just gritty, especially the last season 2, the last episode, to me really like sunk in this idea of like this character being wonderful, like just built in an incredible way. He doesn't fucking win, but he does win. It ends in a good way. It's not, none of these shows, besides maybe the first one, has a weird ending, but all of them have like positive feelings on their last episodes. But anyways, yeah, to me, man, it's just a show that like I can't describe how much I love the design, the characters, the world, the universe, the main character, the side characters. Everything about it to me is just perfect and beautiful. The music, the style, the ideas, the weirdness, the groundedness to it as well. The grittiness to it, the power of these characters, the emotional rants in the background of someone pushing past their adversity, but also being honest, and also the normalization of chaos to me is a charming thing, where like like an explosion happens behind you and you're kind of like, yeah, that's Hell Salem's Lot. Fuck it, you know. And the fact that everyone, and there's such a wholesome undertone where everyone is still trying to like live and like progress and succeed. And they keep finding ways to do that. And it's just beautiful. And there's so many moments that I think are just, I can't describe it how. Also, it's one of the few series that feel like by watching 2 seasons, you've watched so much. And like you have so many memories of instances where these characters had moments to shine. And you just fall in love with all these characters. It's incredible. I love Bloodblock Battlefront so much more than so many other shows. Like it's huge. And again, Welcome to Demon School gets close because it's just kind of overwhelming with its amount of content. Like there's so many more instances of introducing ideas and cool ideas and concepts that to me is slowly but surely, maybe after the 3rd season, depending on how they do it, it could devour this first slot for me. But it will never, like, again, these 2 shows are so far above everything else to me. But anyways, we talked 25 minutes, Jesus Christ, sorry, to talk about my top 3. I'll be quicker on the other end. Anyways, the video title is still Top 10 Anime Recommendations, baby. Little weird, feels a little cringe saying that, but anyway. And again, these are on like shonen, zero to hero kind of shows that I feel like have really cool ideas, but are also executed somewhat well. Anyways, in no particular order, those ones were in order just because I thought about it a lot. These ones, there's no order. It's just like, watch these. Put these on the list, crank them out, get them done. You'll be better for it. I think you'll be entertained if you like these genres. Cool. A lot of these you probably have already seen, actually. But anyways. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Me here in post and or in editing. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot. We were streaming tonight and you guys were like, what about this one, Grinn? You talked a lot about that one and I completely forgot about this one. This one is close to being in top 3 and almost makes me want to just say top 4. This is that awesome. Anyways, big fan of this series. It's called Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Or, more classically said, Dimanche. This anime I love to pieces. First of all, it's aesthetically beautiful and the main character is incredibly interesting and like he wins you over in the first 10 minutes, frankly. I love the show so much. Also, it is like peak zero to hero. It's not an isekai, but it kind of is because it's this character kind of out of sorts in the world, although he doesn't have any past knowledge to kind of presuppose him to have an advantage. But what he does have is an absurd amount of luck and a cool backstory, especially if you've watched the end of season 1. The final episode drops a pretty big bombshell which kind of talks about and communicates the grander theme of the show of a person who he happened to interact with. Anyways, point being is Dimanche is a lovely anime. It's up there for one of my favorites of all time. It's very close. Again, if we ever made a top 5, it would definitely be up there. But anyways, what the premise of it, by the way, is think of like a classic dungeon crawler kind of anime or D&D kind of like anime, but with a pretty cool mythological twist. So in ancient Greece and mythologies and all these things, there's Hestia, Loki, Zeus, and all that shebang. So all of those gods came down to Earth, and they essentially created this Tower of Babel, except going downwards, but maybe also up, I don't know. Regardless, in this dungeon lies the like spoils of war, whether that be gaining experience, gaining power, and etc. But up topside there is guilds which are called familiars. which is basically each one of these gods has in their possession this kind of guild, and our main protagonist goes into one of these kind of like unknown gods ranking, I guess. And it's one of the few shows where on this list I just want you to experience. It's basically everywhere. Netflix, I believe, has it. I think they still do have it. But this is a show where just watch the first episode and I guarantee you'll get locked and pulled in immediately. Now we're getting into like the anime that I think most people would just find magical, wonderful, interesting, and fun. So the top three were just me kind of gushing about what I like. But yeah, but Dimanche is up there, and again, it has a lot to go watch. There was a time when there was not too much content, but now there very much is, with more on the way, which is incredibly exciting. But I would highly suggest you go watch the show. It's hard to explain, but so magical, and the world building is one of the things that it does the best. And again, its main protagonist is unparalleledly charming. I'm not saying that correctly, but you get my point. Is like in the first 10 seconds he says, "I love you," and just completely cuts through a lot of the main protagonist's hesitation and bullshit. And yeah, anyways, hopefully guys go check that one out. Sorry for this being a little jarring, looking at my voice not synced. This is in editing, and I just forgot about this show that I thought was so important to me and so magical, and I would hate to not bring it up. But anyways, back on to the video. So, the fourth show that I think you absolutely should watch, and you've probably seen it, but it's also a goddamn banger, and I don't get enough time to talk about it. Overlord. You should absolutely go check out Overlord. It is a beautiful show. It is again, to me, one of the things I like the most is interesting ideas. When someone introduces cool concepts, and Overlord is one of the few cases where I feel like it executes beautifully. The second season has the weird lizard arc for like too long, but other than that, it's just peak all the time. For those guys who don't know the premise, this guy basically gets sucked into an RPG that he was playing with his friends for a long time and built up this like god tier guild, and this game has like super advanced technology to where like you could have made NPCs do things and react to things, and you could make like a castle that essentially protects your gold or whatever in like floor ranges. So they made like basically I don't know what it is, but it's like the staircase to like hell. Like hell has different realms. They basically made the same thing there. And the catch is that anyone who joined this guild had to be an undead. So the main character gets pulled into this world where he has so many things to interact with, but he is an undead skeleton man. And the cool thing about this is that when he starts to become like human, like or incredibly emotional or expressive, his like undead role will like center him back to the center. So if he starts getting like overwhelmed by like, oh my god, beautiful woman, booba, he'll just get centered back to being like, oh wait, I feel nothing, I'm an undead. So he gets realigned. But also, because he's an undead, he doesn't feel any of his prior feelings. So he kind of acts in this moral way of like, well, I don't feel negative about this, but I do think there's a subliminal line that I don't want to cross because it's what my prior self felt and that he shouldn't cross. That makes any sense. Anyways, so the thing that is also funny is that because he's an undead and because each one of his guildmates created these like NPCs, a lot of the NPCs are like morally weird. Like a lot of the NPCs in his castle are evil, are real evil. They're like they follow the classic D&D of like chaotic good, neutral, lawful good, all those kinds of things, or lawful evil, that kind of thing. So anyways, you get to see this guy interfaces this world, and the overarching premise of Overlord is Ainz. In the first episode, they kind of talk about this. Ainz is going to rule the entire world, but this show never stops delivering really cool ideas and really cool concepts. Like one of them that I think is not talked about enough is that Ainz basically finds out the strategy. He comes up with a strategy of, well, every world and every MMO and every weird thing, even in like our day and age, there's a hero and there's a villain. What if I was both? What if I could control both? What if I was the hero that could save you, but also the villain that you sought to destroy? That way I don't lose, and I can always position them in the right place so that the environment can react to them appropriately. It's awesome. Very brilliant. They got cool spells. Each one of his special like guardians or NPCs that exist within his like labyrinth are incredibly unique, weird, and dude, there are so many moments throughout this series that have you go like, oh, okay. Like one of the moments for me, I think it was in season 2, not to spoil too much, but there's like this very, very cute, like it's like he's an elf, but one of the things that the show does a lot is it's like the inverse of your expectations, or the inverse of what things would normally be. So for instance, there's 2 twins. One's a boy, one's a girl. One likes, the boy likes to dress up like a girl and wear girl clothes. The girl likes to dress up in like masculine clothes. And then there's like for instance, one of the things that you don't really get to see, but there was like a succubus lady who's like the floor guardian, and she's like the secretary, but also she's a virgin and she's a bitch. So she's like this heavenly assistant who is a bitch, but also a succubus who has never done anything. So it's all about, like, his friends that made these NPCs were all about doing the inverse. Most of them. Some people are pretty on to form. Like Sebastian is pretty like, cut and paste. This doesn't have too many inverse things. Maybe with like him being like dark magic based or terror magic based, when he's kind of like a good-hearted person, that could be a little inverse. But yeah, everything is the inverse of what it is. So anyways, there you find this like very wholesome who likes dressing up like a girl or in girl's clothes, and he's very like shy and etc. And you think like, oh, he's like shy and doesn't believe in himself a lot. But you kind of like weirdly associate shyness and like all that and like gentleness with him, not knowing that he is only doing that because Ainz is special to him and everybody else is nothing. Everyone else is insects. So there's a moment in season 2 where this guy just fucking breaks this lady's leg. And if you've seen the show, you've seen it. And it was one of those moments where I was just like, oh, I was wrong. I misread this. I misassociated. Yikes. But also it's like awesome because you realize that like a lot of these people would go dark for their Overlord essentially. So it's a really charming series. I can't talk this much about all of them, but Overlord is amazing. Reincarnated Slime is such a good show. That is my fifth. I would highly suggest you watch Reincarnated Slime. Again, it has that thing where it's like a man voice, but it's a woman, and it also has different weird things that may throw you off a little bit, but stick with it. It's totally worth it. She's a very charming character. They also kind of talk about it in a weird way. But anyways, one of the things that makes this show amazing is, again, all of these shows have incredible ideas that they're showing you. One of the ideas that is masterfully, and thank God it continuously executed perfectly, is this show has the, you know when you play an MMO or certain games where if you're playing a summoner role, you can level up your summon. And when you level up, you maybe have a skeleton guy, but when you level him up, he gets like a chess piece, like a metal knight's chess piece. Then you level him up again, and you level him up all the way to the end, he's like an undead knight who like grew 6 times in size. He's giant, he's holding a giant claymore, like it looks sick compared to where you started. And this show does that whole thing where you have this tiny little slime. It makes this weird deal with this dragon after getting reincarnated, because this is an isekai. So he gets reincarnated. He has the power of like a god-tier dragon inside of him, and he basically, whenever he puts someone under his control or gives them a name, they become kind of equal to slightly under him in terms of his power rating, or their power rating. Quite under them, but still, considering he's like a god or whatever, they're pretty high still. So the whole premise and the whole draw and this idea that they execute perfectly and continuously is you're waiting to see when the next monster that kind of looks a little goofy comes into, I'm so bad with names, into the slime's roster, and you want to see what they become next. And I'm worried because in the season 2, I don't think they do that as much, but it's so charming, and I wish they would just keep doing it, because a lot of times in shows, they'll do like something really cool once, and you're like, if you just kept doing this, I'd be hooked. You don't have to like put this away. You could keep using this trope because it's never used in any other show really. And they keep doing it, and it like even to this day, after he like leveled up so many people, it's still so fucking cool to watch. You can't wait to see how this goblin becomes like a hobgoblin who like is just a human basically. You can't wait to see how this dog wolf becomes like a dire wolf that's like the size of 3 humans stacked on top of each other, you know. So you can't wait to see what comes next. And it's all about global expansion as well. Done pretty well. So they talk about like how he starts off as like this kind of little, he takes a goblins under his wing, and then he takes these oni under his wing, and then he takes more and more. I think they call them orcs in this show though. Anyways, he keeps expanding his empire until he has like an actual settlement. So it's not only that, it's like multiple things that are interesting about the show. All the while being very humorful. It's not a very dark show. Maybe a little season 2 gets a little bit grimace, but other than that, it's pretty uplifting, at least season 1, and totally worth your time. Anyways, the second show, which we're going to breeze by because I'm pretty sure you guys have seen it, Shield Hero. Absolute Linkin Park edgelord, love it. Okay, this show is not. Oh, it's an isekai. It is an isekai. But of course, you guys have heard this. We're gonna be real quick about this. It plays off of the idea of the most underplayed class in any MMO, which is defender or shielder or tank. Except in this show, they kind of add more on top. So again, all of these shows are really cool when it comes to executing ideas. Fantastic. So in Shield Hero, it kind of messes with the idea of seclusion and what happens if you never had the means to grow. So if you were a defender, you are built to defend and not to kill. So it's very, very hard for you to play the loop in these games, and there's no like questing. It's not like when you hand in a quest, you get XP. And even if it is, a lot of the quests are kill things. So you need someone to kind of like grind with you, and the Shield Hero can't do that if you're playing defender. So anyways, there's like a false rape charge in this whole show. It's a little bit more Game of Thrones like politics and like people's trust and like subordinates' ability to perform and all these things. It's really cool. It's really cool. This again, it has a little bit more of the diplomatic lens through it, but other than that, it's very, very cool. Again, a lot of cool ideas. It also does have a lot of like I made a joke, but like the Linkin Park edgelord, where like he destroys his body and channels darkness to like defeat shit, which is cringe, but also like I love it. We all love it. You love it. I love it. It's fucking stupid, but we love it. Anyways, so Shield Hero peak. Cannot wait for season 2. Can it fucking release already? This is also gonna be really quick. My Hero Academia. I think this show is awesome. Again, if you're looking for a 0 to 100 show, so good, love it to bits. Also, man, there's no show like out there right now that gets me fucking juiced, just fucking hyped watching that show. I get like, I can't stand still when I'm watching that show. I'm like, yes, push past your limits, all that. Too good. I love the show to bits. If you guys have not seen it, it's basically like a superhero story where a person that has nothing becomes the ultimate superhero. The fact, the overarching plot is how this boy who had nothing but hope and a desire to become something succeeded in becoming the #1 hero in the entire world, I think. And it's following his progression there, and that sounds cool. It is in the execution of that show to me that is magic. It's in the soundtrack that kills it. It's in the shitty monologue sometimes where you're like, man, this guy's really crying a lot. But it's in that sorrow that comes the understanding of pushing past his perceived adversity, which is beautiful. Anyways, I would highly suggest the show. I would say that is one of the shows where I think you should watch up until the point in which he bodies the robot. You'll know when I see it. That's when you start saying, okay, now finally we're at the 0 and we can see parts of the hero, so let's invest. Otherwise, it's kind of a little bit slow going, at least at the start. But it does become that very, very soon. So hold true until you get to that point. And if you're not into it, then you won't be into it. But hold true. Anyways, oh, I should have. Okay, so this is my like 4th. If I were to put this in my like, if I could have a 4th favorite anime, this would be my 4th. I just didn't write it down this way. But this is one of the shows that, to me, man, I know some people like its brother, but I can't help it. You should absolutely watch the show. It's a little jarring. The art style is a little weird, but it is magic. Mob Psycho 100% is beautiful and is so fun and is so fantastic and is so interesting. But I would say it is a show where, unlike other shows where you can kind of just turn off your brain and enjoy and take the cool ideas, Mob Psycho is kind of like weirdly, in my opinion, this could just be my weird pretentious idea of it, but more of a philosophy idea for life and for pushing past your adversity and all of these things, kind of in the complete opposite way that My Hero is, in a funny way. But it is a lovely story, although it does seem a little like basic-y, at least when it comes to the characters, until you truly start to think about what they're doing and why they're doing it. Like, to me, I liked Mob Psycho a lot when I watched it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was like, cool, it's a guy who, when he reaches, I'll tell you the plot in a minute, but I watched a YouTube video of explaining like the beauty behind Mob Psycho and like the weird messages and the things that they're trying to convey and the reason why people believe what they believe. And it was a beautiful video where it executed and talked about all the wonder that exists within the show and how Mob is just like a beautiful, lovely, developed character, which is super interesting and just a lot of cool, wholesome like life lessons. Like it doesn't matter what you were born into, as long as you have the will to improve and you're willing to put in the time, you can get there. And you may have an advantage, another person can have an advantage. It doesn't matter who has the advantage. It matters that you try to keep moving forward, because for you could get something easily, but maybe it's not what you want, and that doesn't. So then just don't go for the thing you don't want. Work for the thing you do want, and in some way that can be even more gratifying. Anyways, for those guys who do not know what Mob Psycho 100% is, I'm sure you've heard of the name. It's made by the same developer that made One Punch Man. But the idea of the show is that there is this boy who has ungodly psychic power, and his psychic power manifests when he gets emotional. So when he starts getting emotional, things start getting crazy. So in the pursuit to not have that happen, he's basically killed his emotion. So he kind of talks really plainly and like he kills every kind of emotion that he can have. So the 100% is when his emotional percentage gets overwhelmed. So when Mob feels overwhelmed or a burst of emotion, he's usually pretty good about locking it down. So it only increases by like 10%, 30%, 40%. But when he finally reaches 100%, his psychic power just pops off, and it's super stylistic, super weird. But he's literally like a god, but in a really cool way, because the overarching premise is, even if you had godlike power, but you had no motivation to use the power in any way because you just didn't see the value in like getting something through means in which weren't fought after or attained through work and effort, which is very much what Mob feels, I feel, then it's meaningless. It's almost like, what if you were a person who was absurdly tall, incredibly athletic, and really good with hand-eye coordination skills? You'd be premium candidate for playing in the NBA. But what if you just loved like crafting? What if you just loved like building houses? Should you just say, fuck it, I'm gonna play in the NBA and have this weird life that you're not gonna be satisfied, you're not gonna want? Or do you try to work towards this desired life where you could be happy, where you could be fulfilled, even if you didn't have a talent for this weird desire, you could still develop that talent over time and have a life that you would want. This is very much Mob Psycho taken to the 10,000th degree, because everyone likes to point out that like Mob is so strong that he could literally do whatever he'd wanted as long as he was willing to do it with like some force. But Mob doesn't see any value in using his psychic powers. He sees value in effort of like training his physical body and all these things. It's a beautiful show, having so many like cool things where it's like you are simultaneously not special but also special. It's like you're unique and you're different, but you're not alone. And it says this in this really comical way. I'm probably not doing a great job of explaining this one because I'm kind of burning out describing all these shows. But it's so good. It's one of my favorites. It's probably my fourth favorite. It's up there in the list of like so good. I will say it was good and became amazing and great when I finally watched a video that explained to my dumbass all of the minutia of everything and like the Mob's perspective on certain things, because other times you kind of can just get fallen into the trap of like, I want to see Mob pop off, which is fair, but there is so much value in the weird like back and forth of it all, I think. But anyways, Reincarnated Slime, Shield Hero, High School Dick. Oh, I didn't mention this. Holy shit. Okay, this was the 9th or the 10th, and this is gonna require some some build up. We got no time. Okay, so here's the sell. There is a show out there. It is fun. It is a shonen show where it goes from zero bottom bitch to bad bitch kind of like situation. It is also a comedy, so it's really, really funny. It has action. It also has really cool world building and like baseline ideas that are awesome. Like heaven, hell, angels, special gear that was donned by these two powerful dragons that like ruled the world. They're badass. Yeah, main character, horrific pervert. Maybe a plus for some of you. Second thing, there is so much booba. So much booba, so much reference to booba, so much all of it. For some people, you're gonna be like, ugh, filth, disgusting heathen. For others, cultured individuals. This is a great show, and this is to me the thing. We're talking about High School DxD. It is a great show. All right, I hate it. I hate that I gotta die on this hill, but it is so good. Put away the booba, put away the curve, all that. It's just a cool idea. You got heaven, you got hell, you got this weird guy born with this weird thing, and also it's funny. It's also honest. He's also one of the main, like, he's a protagonist that seems like, no, I'm true to who I am. I'm not gonna change, and you'll learn to love me because you have to, because I'll still put my life on the line for you and all these things. And also just the world building and like the character development is also pretty fun. It is just a good, fun watch. Again, if you're really abrasive to that, sexuality in anime or shows, you feel like it gets in the way, then the show could maybe have those instances for you. I would suggest watching the blurred version if that is the case. But yes, it is just also a fun premise. It's one of the weirder ones because I've always thought this show was like, it's actually a good show. You know, it's like, a booba aside, it's very good and well executed, and the characters are endearing and the characters are honest. And they kind of grow and become stronger. Also, the ideas of like this gear, this glove that like boosts up your attack, and it being kind of weak but also very strong in the same way. And this character kind of like charging forward to heal or like to grow and to get what he wants, and to be like a pervert, but also to be kind of like a good bro dude, like a good friend, etc. It's just wildly wholesome, and also this got so much seasons of that show, which is just, they all feel very fun and like they progress. It's a great show. Forgive me for getting a little burnt out. Honorable mentions though, so those are my top 10. I hope I wasn't off by one. Forgive me if I was. But these are my honorable mentions of shows that I think are absolute bangers, totally good to watch. Again, I mentioned Vampire plus Rosary. It's corny, there's fan service, but it's also like got a weird art style. It's a little harem-y too. That one's a little, I don't know. Some people have an abrasive feeling towards those things. If you don't, then watch it. If you do, don't watch it. So this is one that I actually think that not a lot of people actually watched and actually was very, very good. So a lot of those shows I mentioned were just really beloved shows because they execute things really well. What do you want from me? But I will say one of the shows that I feel like people don't talk about a lot is called Lord, Marksman, and Vandal. You know how like Overlord is like the D&D representation of like a mage, like isekai or like D&D mage type. What do you call it? Shield hero is like the sword or the warrior or the defender. Black Clover is kind of like the barbarian archetype, etc. In D&D. Well, this one is like the archer or the ranger archetype in D&D. It's a show that's very, very good. It's not an isekai, but it is very, very. It's got the kind of same idea, like feeling where like this character is, you're jumping to this world and this character is kind of getting like held along and brought along. Very cool. I like it a lot. Again, it's called Lord, Marksman, and Vandal. It's one of the ones I think few people have actually seen. Or at least I don't hear people talk about it a lot, and I like it a lot. The next one that's honorable mention, it's absolutely fire. Drifters. Watch it. Love it. Fall in love. It's beautiful. It's great. It's sad, and at times it's gritty. It's not quite like the other shows where they're all kind of positive and happy to some extent. This one's brutal, gritty, really fun, has a lot of the Game of Thrones political, economic kind of situation at play too, which is great. I should explain the plot to these, but we're running out of time. And the last one that I feel like is a show that is underloved is a show called Is This a Zombie? ? So good. This show is weird. Hey, look at me. It's a lot. Okay? It's a lot. If you like weirdness, like your boy, you're gonna love it. If you don't like weirdness, it may be too much for you. The premise is that this boy gets hit by a truck and brought back by this weird, cutesy necromancer girl, right? We're not done. And then he, in the pursuit to save people, whatever, he becomes, wait for it, a magical girl in a pink dress who rocks a chainsaw. We're not done. He ends up living with also a vampire because the necromancer girl who he's staying with and living with happens to be a bad bitch, very important lady, survived for eternity, eons, all that stuff, and this weird vampire lady wants to be her underling or whatever. So then he ends up living in this world, in this room, as basically like a weird thing. He's like a maid. He's like oh god, it's crazy. Anyways, he ends up. It's a comedy mixed with like action, to where like every episode he's donning the tutu and fucking shit up. Also, it's very much a comedy, so it's just think of like everything being weird and there not being a lot of stakes at all. But people do die though, so be thrown off by that. It's a weird show. It is probably the weirdest show I've ever seen, in terms of just all of it, just all of it. And then the last show that I would have thought I could make this video without throwing this one in the honorable mention pool. It's on Netflix. I think maybe it was on Netflix, but it's called The Devil Works as a Part-Timer. This show is beautifully animated. It's super charming. It's pretty fun. It's an easy watch too. It's not like something where you're like, oh god, I gotta get invested. I gotta get like all thrown around. No. It's just enjoyable. It's just comedy. It's just also world building, interesting, all those kinds of things. So those are my honorable mentions: Lord Marksman and Vandal, Drifters, Is This a Zombie, and Devil Works as a Part-Timer. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. I know it's probably this video is gonna tank because I didn't make it 20 minutes and just like boom, 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 boom. But I wanted to genuinely talk about why these shows are special and why I think you would enjoy them. I do think, again, like on the topic of that, I can't believe I forgot High School DxD. That show is a blast. But again, just maybe like watch it when you're alone, you know, when people can't watch you or judge you. All right, I won't judge you. I got you. But some people in your family, if they hear some shit, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Let me know what you guys think. What are your ideal favorite anime? I will make more of these, probably segregated to more of a niche, like shonen specifically, Zero to Hero, which is kind of shonen. Also maybe like isekai or whatever, because I like what I like, and I wanted to explain why I like it, and if you like the same things, why you would probably like it. But alas, thank you so much for listening to me for far too long. We do stream almost every single day at 5 p.m. Mountain Time on YouTube and Twitch. Given the color of the days, that's when we do it. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys do enjoy the rest of your day. Also, let me know what you guys think and what your guys' favorite shows are. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys do enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye.